In today's video, we'll be ranking the best and worst hero equipment in Clash of Clans. That is right. So we got a lot of new hero equipment in Clash of Clans since my last tier list video. And of course, I will have that video linked down below if you want to go watch that for yourself later, because it goes a little bit more in depth into my thought process on why I pick each hero equipment. This time around, I will do the same thing, but it's going to be a little bit more faster paced. But we got 3 new hero equipment. We got the, Frozen Arrow for the Queen. We got the new Hog Puppet, and also the Haste in Clash of Clans. And I think all these hero equipments are really cool, especially like the Giant Gauntlet is the first like epic hero equipment. And I think it's perfect time to actually do an updated video with these new 3 hero equipments. I think you'll be very surprised of the results. Let's get right into it. First of all, we got the Healer Puppet. Honestly, this ability is really cool because it literally gives access to the Queen Walk. If you don't bring any healers for your attack, you of course can use this ability to actually push in the base of the Queen, pop it off to actually get the CC troops, but then also use it to reset the Queen to actually get healers on top of her for a Queen Walk, and then drop a rage spell on top of her if you really want to. But besides that though, I don't feel like the Healer Puppet is a very strong ability. It's one of those hero equipments that's really cool in theory. However, it's highly situational to get the value from it. So I'm gonna put this honestly in low B tier for the time being. Next up, we got the Archer Puppet. This is probably one of the abilities in Clash of Clans that I think is a classic, but at the same time, it's not that good. Just because most of the archers in the game, no matter the level, can usually get one-shotted by high-level defenses. And so, like, the Queen gets, of course, like 1,000 hit points recovered from this, or how much it is. I'll show it on screen. But then she gets to summon a certain amount of units. And I think that's good for protecting her and distracting, but most times around, they don't usually last too long. So I'm gonna put this on low C tier. Next up, we got the Vampstash. This is probably the newest Clash of Clans ability, I think, in the game. That's really cool. It's really weak at the base level, but has the potential to heal the king, complementing with, of course, the Giant Gauntlet to actually just get in the back max health. But I do feel like it's one of those hero equipments that you need, of course, have it high level to get that much value from it. However, I do think it's one of those hero equipments that is very good, so I'm going to put it on low A tier. Next up, we got the Barbarian Puppet. This is similar to the Archer Puppet, where it spends a certain amount of units, there'll also be a certain level, plus it also gives the king a health recovery, which is pretty good. I think this is honestly better than the actual Archer Puppet. I don't feel like it's one of those abilities that you should keep on your king once you unlock certain other hero equipment, which I'll explain later here which one those are. But I definitely think this is one of those ones that's iconic, but it's not that good anymore. So I'm going to put it above the Archer Puppet, but still, I wouldn't recommend using it. Next up, we got the Quake Boots, and this is probably my favorite hero equipment that was released upon the game, which of course grants the king the ability, when you activate it, they can break walls depending on level. It'll break any level wall no matter what, which is sick. So if you combine this with like the Rage Vial to actually go in the base, go pick off a cubby, you can absolutely do so with it, and there's a lot of potential for it. However, you have to go with a certain attack strategy that fully utilize it. So I do think that's one of those hero equipments that's really strong, but it isn't the best. So I'm gonna put it in actually high B tier. Next up, we got the Warden's Life Gen. Now this ability is interesting just because of the fact the Life Gen provides like hog riders, balloons, extra health upon their attack, which is pretty good as long as they're in the aura. However, it wasn't really strong, and last time I actually put on my list, I put in action D tier just because of the fact that the meta right now wasn't like hog rider, miner, like people could still use them with those strategies, yes, and it'd be beneficial, don't get me wrong. If you have those strategies, absolutely use it with it. But for me personally, since I didn't have those and I didn't see them a lot being used meta wise, I didn't actually put it in high tier at all. So this time around, because hog riders and miners are gonna get a buff, plus like what was it the root rider is insane right now, combining with a certain other troops, this hero equipment is gonna get a surge to the use case. So for me personally, I'm gonna honestly say this is gonna be probably B tier. I'd say top of B tier right now, just because the use cases are going to be absolutely amazing for it with the new attack strategies that are going to be coming out. Because you're probably going to see a lot of attack strategies combining miners, root riders, Valkyries, and those kind of things, just because the use cases is so freaking good. Next up, we got the Warden's Eternal Tomb. This is probably the most overpowered hero equipment in the game. It literally grants the troops invincibility for a certain period of time. And I feel like with Clash of Clans, you have to have the Warden in your attack no matter what. They actually like restart anything, and without having a hero upgrading and stuff like that, we've all been in that position in war where like we have our Warden upgrading or a champion upgrading, and we try to attack in war and it doesn't end well. And I feel like that's especially the case with the Warden, because the Warden is such an essential like hero in the game that helps you 3-star most times in war. So the Eternal Tomb provides so much power too to go in the middle base, absolutely reset, get picks and stuff like that, while being invincible without being affected by the poison spell of the Town Hall, that you can't really sleep on this hero equipment. So I'm gonna say this is the top of S tier, just because how much value this thing actually brings to the game. Next up, we got the Tome of Healing. This is probably the newest hero equipment in the game that's honestly similar to that, the Vampstash, but it's so freaking busted because as a hero equipment, when you activate the Warden's ability, it will heal all of your troops within a certain period of time to actually max HP, which is pretty nice. So it's pretty busted. Then you combine that fact that it heals your troops 100 heals per second, then you combine it with Invincibility, that's a full reset, and you didn't even have to bring a heal spell. So it's literally a massive heal spell that can heal all your troops back to max. If you utilize this right, combine it with the RC and you pop her ability, and all your heroes inside of it, you can see what I'm talking about. There's a lot of value to be made with this, but I don't think it's the most insane hero equipment in the game, so I will put an S tier, but low S tier for sure. Next up, we got the Rage Gem. This is similar to that, the Tome of Healing, where of course can actually provide a benefit to the Warden's aura, but compared to the Healing Tome where you have to activate the Warden's ability to get the benefit from this, the Rage Gem, you literally just have to have this on the Warden, and his aura will grant you was like a 30% damage boost and some other stuff, which is like it's just like a Rage Vial. Not Rage Vial, a Rage spell, but for the Warden's aura, passively going 24/7. And I love this hero equipment so freaking much. Like, once you get access to it, 10 out of 10 would recommend until you unlock the Healing Tome. So I'm gonna say this is top of A tier. This could honestly be an S tier hero equipment. The problem with it is, once you unlock the Healing Tome, there's really no reason to use the Rage Vial besides maybe attacking a base is a lot more open and that you're a lot more spread out, so you get through the base faster. You see what I'm talking about here? You can actually do this with this. So yeah, top of A tier for sure. Next, we got the Royal Champion's ability, the Royal Gem, which grants her, of course, health recovery by like 50% of her health most times around, and also on top of that too, some like damage and stuff like that, but no one really cares about that. We want the reset. And I would say this hero equipment for the RC is just an iconic one. Like the Seeking Shield's amazing, right? So I would have to say this is high B tier. I would honestly say it's like top of B tier, but since it's just personally for the RC, I'm actually gonna put it like in between the Gauntlet, not the Gauntlet, the boots, and also the actual Life Gem, because this thing is like just combining with the new hero equipment that we got, like especially like the Hog Puppet or the Haste Vial and stuff. You can get damage bonus on top of it, but when she goes in the base now, she'll also get a half reset. It's like versing Mewtwo in Pokemon. When you verse your friend in Pokemon and their Mewtwo uses Recover, you're like, oh crap. This is like he has like 2 Pokemon left. You have 4 Pokemon left. Mewtwo uses Recover, reset. That's Mewtwo is literally the RC in Clash of Clans in my opinion, but it's just a freaking overpowered hero, and I feel like this hero recovery, just giving her a full reset almost most times around, is just insane. And combining with the Eternal Tomb too, you can see where I'm going with this. So I'm gonna put it in B tier for the time being, but it's more of a greedy like thing for the World Champion. Next up, we got the Seeking Shield. This hero equipment is so freaking good for the World Champion. However, there's one downside, which I'm gonna say in just a second here, that this thing can target up to 4 things, does over 2,500 damage, so technically it does 10,000 damage, but most times around you gotta know what you're picking with it, and it only hits like 4 defenses. So I think this hero equipment is awesome because of the fact that it's like insane to bust through things, and it's not like the giant arrow where it goes through like one tile and doesn't hit anything most times around that you want. It actually seeks out the things what you want and can also be good for cleaning up bases too. So I'm gonna put this actually in S tier, and such an iconic hero equipment. I'm gonna put it actually right above the Healing Tomb, but the only problem with it is it doesn't grant any other benefits besides like being activated and popping a bunch of stuff. Next up, we got one of the first new hero equipment for Clash of Clans. We got the Haste Vial. This ability lets a Royal Champion get a attack speed increase passively and also a minor damage speed increase, not damage speed increase, damage increase to her passive overall attack, which is pretty nice itself. But then when you activate it, she literally goes into overdrive and literally gets 50 attack, not 50 attack, 50 like movement speed. So she becomes one of the more faster troops in the game, even faster than like almost a mini at times too, which is kind of nutty to think about. And then she does so much more damage. She like doubles or triples her DPS depending on your level. So you can see where I'm going with this hero equipment. Now I think this is the one of the cooler hero. However, it's similar to a normal haste spell where it wears off really fast, so you gotta know what you want to do with it, but it provides a normal damage buff. And if you combine this with the Royal Gem, instead of her having passively 100 damage with the Royal Gem, she now gets 200 damage with actually the haste. So you can see where I'm going with that, and then it goes into overdrive, kicks it on in. So I will say this hero equipment is actually probably, I don't know, I want to say A or B. I think it's going to be honestly A tier. So I'm going to say A tier for sure for this hero equipment. I don't think it's like the top of A tier. I think it's in between the Rage Gem and also the Vampstash, because it's such a good hero equipment for the RC. But besides that though, there's nothing much else to be said about it. The website's being weird, so just imagine it's in below the Royal Gem, because for some reason the site's been buggy. Next up, we got the Invisibility file for the actual Archer Queen. I feel like this ability is so iconic for the Queen. It's so much value too, because you can only send your Queen in with a Queen Walk, get a bunch of picks, but then you can pop her ability later with the actual invisibility spell, give even more picks, and she gets a reset because the healers get the healer again. Like, dude, this ability for the Queen is so freaking good. Like, oh my god, this is probably the best hero equipment in the game. But the only unfortunate thing that there's a better equipment than that. But I will say this is an S tier hero equipment. I would honestly say it's above the Seeking Shield most times around. So definitely, yeah. This is a must use on the Queen no matter what. Next up, we got the Giant Arrow. Now this hero equipment is interesting because of the fact it does like 1,000 damage all across the map. But the problem with it is it's a 1 tile radius. So if you don't get the timing right with it, you can literally just shoot it and get no value from it. And I feel like I get that most times around, even though, yeah, I get some picks here and there, maybe when I'm targeting something with it. It's very situational, but sometimes again, it can be really good. So I'd say this is probably an A tier hero equipment. I would honestly say it's low A tier, probably above the Vampstash, but it depends on your use case. So I could honestly say it's low A tier or B tier, but I'm gonna say A tier for the time being, just because like it is still really good, but there are a lot of things better you can use. Next up, we got the Rage Vial for the King. This, of course, provides a health recovery by a significant amount, also a damage increase, attack speed increase, and this is a bunch of stuff that the Rage Vial does for the King. I feel like it's one of those hero equipment that's so freaking good for the King. Like, I would either use the Rage Vial or the Vampstash for the King, no matter what. These are like the 2 hero equipments I use most of the time around. But for me personally, and I feel like this is gonna be one of those things that gets a lot more value with it, is using the actual Rage Vial comboing with the Giant Gauntlet has a lot more benefit to it than using like the Giant Gauntlet with actually the Vampstash, because like, yeah, with the Vampstash and Giant Gauntlet, you get a damage reduction by like 50%. But if you do the Rage, you of course can just go in there, clean up really fast, and it'll take 50% less damage. That's me personally. If you're gonna go in swinging, you're gonna go in swinging hard in my opinion. So I'm gonna say this is an A tier hero equipment. I would honestly say it's above the actual Giant Arrow because there's a lot more value for most times around. So that's my preference at least. Next up, we got the Giant Gauntlet, the first epic hero equipment ever released in the game, but it's honestly probably the strongest hero equipment in the game besides like, you know, the Eternal Tomb and stuff like that. Provides damage reduction, attack speed increase, and a bunch of other stuff. It might not be attack speed increase, it might be damage. I'll show a picture on screen. You get the general gist though. It provides a lot of benefits to the King that you can't really find on any other hero equipment. It's honestly a hero equipment you must use with the King 9 out of 10 times, because you can just combine this with a Vampstash that 50% damage reduction, then it heals them passively by like 100 or 200 over time for the out stack. Your King can pretty much go out the base, on the outside of the base, clean up the whole base on the outside by himself and solo most times around. Or you can use it to go inside the base with, of course, the Giant Gauntlet, get that damage increase, get that splash increase, but then Rage Vial boosts everything by like 2x. So you can see what I'm talking about. Like, the Giant Gauntlet has so much versatility that you combine with other hero equipment that gets so much more value from it. So this is honestly an S tier hero equipment. I would say it's better than the Invisibility Vial because of how many things it provides, but of course gotta have a use case for it. Now we got one of the new hero equipments for the Archer Queen, the first epic hero equipment for her, the Frozen Arrow. Now this ability is so freaking good. So it literally makes the Archer Queen, every time she targets the defense and starts shooting at it, just slow it down by a certain percentage. At the max level, does 70% slowdown rate, which is really freaking good because most times around you're sending your Queen to go into the base to get picks with a Queen Walk, right? So being able to slow down like Infernos, Monolith, Expos by like 70% to 50%, like mine's 50% right now, it's not even near max level with that, right? Like, you can see what I'm talking about. You can get a lot more value because she's gonna die less slower because she's slowing everything else down as a byproduct. And I think this is one of those hero equipments that's a must use. This is significantly far better than the actual Giant Arrow because Lily provides so much value. It's a passive ability go throughout the tech. You never have the activator ability, so you literally can have everything slowed down. Have her get passive healing from the healers, of course. Then if she does get low health, you can then activate the Invisibility Vial, damage boost, plus health recovery, plus reset, plus slowdown. You get the general gist how good this hero equipment can be. So I'm gonna say this hero equipment is an SU hero equipment. Do I think it's better than the Invisibility Vial? No, I would say it's honestly right below the Invisibility Vial because the Invisibility Vial really complements this hero equipment. So we're gonna place that right under there. If it lets me drag it, it's not working. You get the general gist. Next up, we got the last hero equipment, the Hog Rider Puppet. This thing is like so cool. I feel like this hero equipment is like probably the most unique hero equipment for the actual Royal Champion. We're supposed to get more hero equipment for her later, but anyways, you get the general gist though. This thing actually summons Hog Riders for the actual Royal Champion, which grants her 1 second invisibility. So usually you're sending the RC to go in the base, right? They actually get some picks and stuff like that. And most times around, you really just want to have her protected because you get the Fox Beard making her visible most times around, right? So she's doing picks. picks, but then she gets low health. So when you pop her ability, the Royal Gem uses resets to the max health, right? But now you can really combine this with the Fox Spirit, that of course make sure she's invisible, reset, but then she gets another second of invisibility. I'm pretty sure it stacks, unless they correct me if I'm wrong. But then the troops get 7 Hog Riders on top of it. And at the base level, it's like 6 or something Hog Riders. And when you max it out, it's like, I think it's like 8 or 12 Hog Riders, and they're maxed at level, which is insane. So you can see what I'm talking about here. She gets to summon a small Hog Rider army to distract for her, and they go in slamming, but she goes in throwing. You know what I'm saying? Like, the combo between those two things is so freaking good. So I'd say this hero equipment is one of those hero equipment that's really good, but I feel like when she gets her next hero equipment, it's actually gonna be insane. It's not gonna be that crazy. So I would honestly say this hero equipment has a lot more value, but honestly is not that broken too. I would honestly say, I want to say it's top of B tier, but at the same time too, I also want to say it's an A tier hero equipment or bottom of A tier, just because like the use case right now is actually kind of ridiculous for it. It's not an S tier equipment by far. So I'm gonna say it's a top of B tier hero equipment. The only problem with this hero equipment is it doesn't provide like that much health recovery at the base level. It's like a decent amount. It's something insane, but I feel like it's like bouncing between the bottom of A tier and the bottom of B tier, but I'm saying a top of B tier for the time being. But that's my hero equipment tier list of this like Clash of Clans right now. Like, do you agree with my take? Do you disagree with my take? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd be curious to see what you guys say. That's my tier list though. If you guys enjoyed my video, make sure to smash the like button, get subscribed to miss on future Clash of Clans content. I'll see you guys around. GMAN out.